What's good, YouTube? Hope y'all doing well. Hopefully this video is the last boom bap tutorial you'll have to watch on YouTube. I'm going to be showing y'all pretty much the entire process of how you can find a sample, chop it up, and turn it into a full boom bap beat. And I don't think I need to say too much else, so let's just jump right into it. Alright, so let's jump into how I actually found the sample. So I was scrolling on the trending section on samplet.io, which is, in my opinion, probably like the best way to find samples is using Samplet. I'm not sponsored, but this is my favorite website to use. So anyways, I went to the trending audio section and I found this sample right here. So I just figured I'd go ahead and flip it on camera and make a tutorial video out of it. So I'll just give y'all a quick little preview of what the sample sounds like. Alright, so I think y'all get the idea. I went ahead and took that sample and I put it into FL Studio. Let's go ahead and start chopping up our sample here. So the first thing that I want to do is find the main transient where this starts. So we'll go to the beginning here. And so with a song with drums, typically that's going to be where the first kick hits. So we can see that in the transient where it's this kind of like kick waveform. And I'll just drag in another kick so you can kind of see that there's this little jump right here and you can hear the little bit of the punch. It's pretty subtle, but something like that is what you're looking for. You want to find where there's a big jump in the audio. So for example, this little transient right here I think is another kick. So the more practice that you get with this, you'll be able to kind of discern what's a kick and what's not. Typically you want to look for those because those are the easiest ways to figure out where like the start of a measure is. So what I'm going to do is select my chopping tool. You can just hold middle click and then press right click on FL and just pick the razor blade tool. And then now what I want to do is scroll in really close, hold down the Alt key on my keyboard for Windows. And then I'm just going to hold left click and cut it right at the beginning of that kick. So that sounds something like this. And so now what I want to do is probably just mute this audio clip here. So you can double click, right click, and just drag it over and that mutes it. Or alternatively, you can select the little mute tool here. Again, that's holding middle click on your mouse and then right click and you hit the little mute clip. You can turn it on and off. So now what I want to do is take this sample and I'm just going to move it to the nearest measure. And so you can just do this quickly by just hitting Shift and Q. And that just snaps it to the nearest line. And then now what you want to do is just put it to the nearest measure line. For this, I'm going to move it to 5 because I feel like it. You can put it all the way to the left, but I feel like I like to have a little bit of room to work with on the left. And so now we have our chop. What I want to do is figure out what the tempo is. So you can either use a website like TuneBat that has a built-in tempo and key finder. Sometimes those are a little bit off though. I personally like to find the tempo myself. One of the easiest ways you can do that in FL is left clicking on the top of the sample and finding detect tempo. And this one says it's about 59 beats per minute, so you can just click on that. We can later verify that, but what I want to do is figure out the tempo just for myself. And the method I like to use for that is tapping in the tempo. So how you do that is you go up to your tempo here, right click and hit tap. And then you can either click in with your mouse, or what I like to do is just click any of my keyboard keys. Usually I hit like the comma key or the M key on my keyboard while the sample's playing in the background. And basically what you want to do is you want to tap the key like you're tapping the metronome to the beat. You'll get a tempo that's pretty close to the actual one. Seems like it's about 132 beats per minute. We'll go ahead and turn on the metronome and just see what that sounds like. So it's not perfectly on time, but I think for our purpose, it should work just fine. So a lot of these older samples, just as a heads up, they're not going to be played perfectly on time. Like you probably heard that the sample went a little bit slower than the metronome and then it picked up speed a little bit and kind of caught itself around the 8 measure mark here. Just be aware of that. You're not going to have perfectly on time samples, especially with older songs, because their production isn't exactly perfect because they don't use electronic production. They recorded it live on tape machines. Anyways, I'm getting too off track here. So now that I have the tempo down, I'm going to go ahead and start finding my chops. I like the intro, so I'm just going to keep this first 8 measures here, and like we did at the beginning, we're going to chop it right at the beginning of that kick. And so I'll just move this down just to put it aside. And we'll just keep looking for other chops that we might want. Alright, so I'm going to make the next chop right here, and again I'm going to make it right on that kick transient. I'm going to go ahead and move that to the nearest major grid line, and then hit Shift Q to move it on to grid. Alright, so I'm going to slice it right here, and just move this out the way. So again, like I said earlier, we're not going to have, the tempo is not going to be perfect. So it seems like about the first 4 measures or so is going to end right here. And then we have this little gap at the end. So basically, how I'm going to fix this is go up to the stretch audio thing right here. And then what I'm going to do is just go to the end here, and I'm just going to stretch it so that it's exactly 8 measures long. So as we can see right here, we got 4 measures, another 4, and this last little bit right here is what's missing. And also it'll kind of tempo adjust it. You'll see once we stretch it. So like I said, we're going to go up to the top here. Make sure that this is lit up, the little 2 arrows going the other way, so that way we can stretch the audio clips. And then now I'm just going to stretch it. See how there's a little bit? You can zoom in real close and then hold Alt on your keyboard and then click and drag it, and it'll fit exactly. Also, as a heads up, if you're using an older version of FL Studio, you'll have to make the audio clip unique before you time stretch it. FL Studio 25 actually made a change where that you could time stretch the audio clips individually. If you're in an older version of FL Studio, what you'd have to do is go up to the top left here, click on it, and then hit make unique or make unique as sample, and then do the time stretching like this. And so now let's go ahead and play it with the metronome. It's not perfectly on time, but for our purposes, it'll work. And so now we have the 2 main sample chops. We've got our little chorus bit here, and then our intro. So when it comes to sampling, a quick little tip that I want to give y'all is the best place usually to start when it comes to looking for your chops is usually the intro and the chorus. The chorus is usually the busiest, usually has the most melodic elements to it, so there's a lot more to sample there. And also, it's just going to sound more like a complete feel, if that makes any sense. Chorus is a good place to start, and intros usually kind of have some melody components, but it gives you enough room to where you can place drums and kind of make those verse sections of the beat. So just throwing that out there as a little bit of advice. So we have our 2 chops now, and what I want to do is go ahead and change the mode on the sample here from resample to stretch. That way, when we do adjust the tempo, which we're going to in a second here, our sample stays the same length. It doesn't change length when we increase the tempo, and also it'll stay at the same pitch. But for now, I'm going to change this back to resample. This is just personal preference of mine. You don't have to do it. I just think it's kind of cool because it almost sounds like you're kind of speeding up a vinyl player. And so now what I'm going to do is just take this little sample bit right here. I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to scroll up on the tempo until I get to a tempo that I like. So for boom bap beats, typically they're kind of around the 70 to 90 BPM range. Since I time synced it at 132, I'm just gonna multiply those numbers by 2. So 70 to 90 effectively is the same thing as 140 to 180 beats per minute. I think I'm gonna aim for something more around 160, but let's just go ahead and increase the tempo first. All right, I think I like 164, and so y'all kind of saw the reason why I wanted to switch it to resample, so you can kind of get a feel of what pitch sounds good too. So I think what I want to do is switch this back to stretch and just keep moving this pitch knob up until we get to around the pitch that we had with the resample. So which sounds about plus 300, so that sounds good to me. And now we're almost ready to go ahead and start throwing some drums on it. The last thing I want to do is go in and extract the stems on both of these. So I'm going to go to each one, left click on the top here and go to extract stems from sample. I'm going to select everything and then hit extract. And then same thing with this one right here. And for the second section, I don't want the drums anyways, so I'm just going to disable it and just do the other three and hit extract. Now we got the stems for both our section here. They're all on stretch mode with the correct pitch and everything. So for this part of the sample, these three stems, I want them to have their own mixer tracks. So I'm just going to go to the channel rack here, and these all end with the number 3. These all end with the number 2. So I'm just going to go to the one where the number 3 is on all of them. Select them like that by holding right click and dragging, and then going to the mixer track and then hitting Control Shift L to route them all here. And then I'll go ahead and disable those. If you want to select multiple mixer tracks, you just hold Control Shift and then drag your mouse. And then for the other ones, I don't think I'm going to adjust them as much individually. So I think I'm just going to route all 4 of those to their own mixer track, which is just Control L. So if we play this section, you'll see that each of the stems have their own mixer track. Alright, so now I think we can go ahead and start adding some drum sounds onto it. The first thing I want to throw down is a perk loop, and there is one from the My Drum Kits that I have in mind. It's from the My Drum Kit 1, I think. It's one of these. I think it's loop 5 right here. So we're going to throw this in, and we can see that the loop is not quite 8 measures. So we're basically going to do the same thing as we did with chopping the sample, and we're just going to stretch it so that it fits exactly 8 measures. Also, these need to be fixed too. Let me do that. And we're going to change the mode from resample to stretch on this one. Turn the volume down a little bit. And I'll route that to a mixer track. And there's one thing I want to do with this, and that's auto pan it. So I'm going to open up Patcher and go to 1K auto pan. Make sure it's on and turn it up. So basically what this is going to do is just pan the perk loop from left to right, just kind of back and forth, like it'll just pan between the different sides of the audio. This will be a lot easier to hear if you're wearing headphones. And you can see it in the audio that is kind of moving left and right. And I'll go ahead to the mix level on Patcher and turn it down a little bit. So for the rest of the drums, I have another drum kit in mind, which is the Eve Robbie drum kit. I'm going to go ahead and grab a kick and probably a snare to start with. Alright, like this one right here. Actually, I'll grab that rim. Alright, I think we'll just layer these two together now that I think about it. So go ahead and just throw those down on the 3rd beat of every measure. If you were doing this at a lower tempo, so this is 164. So for example, if you were doing this at 82 beats per minute, which is just halftime, the only difference is that your drums are going to be drawn in a little bit differently. Instead of it hitting on the 3rd beat of every measure, it would hit on every 2nd beat and 4th beat, like that. It would basically just look like this drum pattern, but just squished into half the size. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn up the velocities on these kick, just so it's a little louder. Alright, so now I think I want to go ahead and grab some open hats. Kind of like that one. Grab this one. And I think we can go ahead and add another cymbal to it. Something like this. We could probably add it like right here, something like that. That sounds good. Alright, so I think the last thing I want to go ahead and add is just the sub bass. And you can get a bass guitar, sub bass, whatever works. I just prefer to use a sub bass. That's just me. And so what you want to do when you're setting up the sub bass is go to your envelope here and make sure you have these settings where you have everything down and the holds all the way up. Also, if you're using FL 2025, you have the option to make presets. So my default preset right here is this envelope shape. So we're just gonna go ahead and find the root note here with the sub bass. Simple, just stay on the same note, root note. I don't really like the note of the sub bass, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and change the key on this. So I'm gonna go to the master mixer track and go ahead and put some sound shifter on it, and I'll move this. I think I want to move it up probably like 3 or 4 semitones. So let's just see what we got. Yeah, I think I want to move it up 3. So all we got to do here is just pitch all the things where the pitch matters up 3. So I'm just going to go to the first audio clip here. And so we're at plus 300 cents right now. I'm just going to move this up until it says plus 600 and then right click on it and hit copy or just the C key. We're going to paste that value onto the pitch on all the other audio clips we have. And then I'm going to move the sub bass up 3. So 1, 2, 3. And I think I could pitch this down an octave. There we go. So for this intro part here, I think I want to make like a little, what's it called? Like an automation, underwater effect, whatever you want to call it. So all I'm going to do is open up an EQ on it and go to one of these cut presets. I'm just going to move it down to whatever I think is good to start at, and we'll automate it out. So I'll leave it like right here. And then what I want to do is go to the little knob that controls how far left or right it goes. Right click on it, hit create automation clip, and make sure before you hit create automation clip that you only have like 8 measures or 16 measures selected, because then otherwise it'll just make an automation clip that just goes all the way out here. That's just annoying to have to deal with. And so all I'm going to do is just move this end right here all the way up so that at the end of this clip, this band moves all the way back from here all the way to the end. So it's pretty much back to normal. And we can adjust how quickly it comes back in. And I think what I want to do is chop out these vocals right here. There we go. And a couple more things I want to add. So to start off the verse, what I want to do is throw in a drum fill. I think this is one that I created with like 2 or 3 different ones. It's just sitting in my downloads folder somewhere, but I think I just want the last few little drum taps here. So let's do this. There we go. We'll go ahead and add a little transition crash too while we're at it. Go to the resonance kit right here. Throw my tag down too before I forget. Roll up, Tess. You know what? One idea that just came to mind for me is I want to add a little like guitar solo to this. So I'm gonna grab my guitar real quick. So the key for this is C sharp minor. So. Something like that. I'm just gonna turn on the recording and we'll just kind of figure it out. gonna keep that first part. I didn't really quite get it. Go ahead and move this to the right a little bit. Hold up. The same thing that I played before, it's just on a different string. So we'll just go ahead and fix this up right here, see what it sounds like. Something like that. Oh, I wasn't recording? Dang. Oh well. We'll just replay it. The bend at the end isn't correct, but the other notes I think are more or less fine. Alright, that was kind of OD, but that was fun. I just kind of thought of it on the fly. Let me actually make a better version of that. Alright, I think we got it together. Alright, so yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. Hopefully this video was helpful for y'all. The little guitar thing was just kind of impromptu, I guess. I don't know, I just heard it in my head, so I just figured I'd throw a little guitar solo on it. But y'all got to see the whole process of finding the sample, chopping it up, throwing drums on it, kind of arranging it a little bit. So that's pretty much the whole process when it comes to making boom bap beats. And I don't got nothing else to say, so I'll see y'all in the next video.
Reluctant.